Hey everyone, welcome to Keto and Crime. Tonight we've got a great show for you lined up, I hope. We're going to be talking about the apparent downfall of supermayor Tiffany Henyard, as well as some other news stories. I will be joined in just a little while by my good friend Brian Trippett over at the Front Porch Conservatives. So we're going to be discussing that. He also covered the DNC. So after we finish all the Tiffany Henyard stuff, we might do a little bit of convo about the Democratic National Convention and his analysis of that. But in the meantime, we'll give everybody just a little while to trickle in here, and then we'll get started. I'll start with a little bit of summary of the Tiffany Henyard case. She is one of the youngest mayors ever to serve as a mayor of a Cook County township. Her two towns, Dalton, Illinois, and Thornton Township, are small little villages. And when I say village, I mean village. These are very small little towns just outside Chicago. They're in the south suburbs of Chicago. And she has served in the Dalton government since 2013 when she was elected as one of their board of trustees. That's their version of a town council. And from what I understood, she served there from 2013 to 2017 and did some wonderful, marvelous things. And then ran for mayor, being elected in 2021 out of a 3-person ticket. But once she became mayor, she went off the rails, and her entire administration has been nothing but one big diagram of how to run a corrupt administration. There's nothing else to say about it. It's so blatant that it's satire. In fact, I wish it was satire, but it started with misuse of funds, funding her own lifestyle with public funds, using public funds to launch her reelection campaign, also financing and leasing her own SUV that the towns were made to pay for. Remember, she's not only the mayor of Dalton, Illinois, she's also the supervisor of Thornton Township, a neighboring town. Now, the majority of the people in this town are African American. The median income for these towns is in the $20,000 to $28,000 range. That is the average income of the citizens that live in the two towns that she supervises. Her salary is somewhere in the neighborhood of $250,000 a year. $250,000 is what she makes for the job of running both these towns. In addition to the salary that is literally 10 times what her constituents make on average, she has been using public tax funds. Instead of using them to improve roads and pay for things she's supposed to be doing, she's using them to fund her own lifestyles, lavish trips to Las Vegas that even though her own local news has picked up on and has decided is corrupt. She's been called on the carpet by local media strongly based on what she did. In addition to that, she also, as I said, funded her own SUV while defaulting on payments for 10 SUVs used by the Dalton police force. So egregiously that the finance companies that held these loans actually threatened repossession. So imagine a police force with no cars. That's what they were looking at. In addition, she has pretty much made enemies out of everyone on the town council that does not support her, and has even lashed out at local business owners that won't give to her reelection campaign, won't give to her causes, by revoking business licenses and refusing to issue new business licenses. You can find this just by Googling Tiffany Henyard. There's so much that if I showed you clips of it, we would be here all evening. Hey, Silver Girl, how are you? In addition, she has even been accused of attempting to delete a political rival, a town council person that stood up against her. There was evidently a hit squad sent out for that person who somehow managed to survive, all leading back to Tiffany Henyard. In addition, she uses certain local police as stormtroopers and as security detail, paying them egregious amounts of overtime. Some of these police officers, including one we're going to be talking about in detail, in 1 week racked up over 200 hours. Now, how can you work 200 hours in a week? You would sleep an average of 2 hours a night. There's no way. So she rewards people that support her and punishes people that are against her. In addition, she's made a spectacle out of many town council meetings. She has threatened the town council. She has threatened citizens. And it's just, yeah. She also hired a public building inspector that was a convicted predo, we'll call. And it was only after some of the action of the town council and some local concerned citizens that he was removed from office. In fact, the one that she is accused of sending a hit squad after is the one that started the campaign to have this person removed. And now we get to the present, where Dalton Township has hired a few months ago Lori Lightfoot, the former governor of former mayor of Chicago. I guess it takes a crook to know a crook, to be a special investigator to investigate Tiffany Henyard. And she came up with a whole laundry list of things that she found wrong, because so much national and world attention has been focused on the Tiffany Henyard case. You can find a plethora of videos in both mainstream and independent media covering this girl. So there's that. And it looks like my good buddy Brian is popping in backstage. I'll go ahead and add him to the stream, and we'll introduce him, and then we'll continue.
Hey, gorgeous.
Hey, how are you?
Oh, busier than a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest.
Yeah, I'm to this to the people watching that you've been covering the Democratic National Convention all week.
God help me.
Well, I told them that
I am either a masochist or a political commentator or a combination of the two, to be willing to put myself through that gigantic, as the British say, shite show. Woo, mercy.
Well, I did tell everybody we're going to get through the Tiffany Henyard stuff, and then we'll probably switch over to the last part and discuss your thoughts on the DNC. I honestly did not watch it. I did watch quite a bit of the RNC, but I just could not stomach the DNC. And for those of you that don't know, I do lean right of center, and I don't hide that. So I'm not a fan of the Democratic Party in its current iteration, even though I was a lifelong Democrat up until 2020, believe it or not. President of my college chapter of College Democrats of America. That's how far back it goes for me.
Oh, believe me, and we might get into this in the tail end of the program, but yeah, listening to RFK Jr.'s speech today, I mean, I think it was recorded last night that Vice President Kamala Harris spoke for 37 minutes. Kennedy spoke for 45, and in 45 minutes ran circles around her, and all he was doing was withdrawing from a political race.
Yeah.
She was accepting her party's nomination.
In a perfect world, I saw my good friend Blair White's tweet today. In a perfect world, it would be Trump and RFK Jr. on the ticket, on the ballot, and I would not be upset if either of them won.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of reminds me in one respect of 1964. Barry Goldwater was actually looking forward to the idea of having a campaign against John F. Kennedy, and an assassin's bullet, deprived him of the opportunity. But they actually, Kennedy and Goldwater were looking forward to running against each other on the grounds. And Goldwater said it would have been a campaign about ideas,
because it's two good options.
Yeah, and they would have disagreed with each other, and they would have fought like cats and dogs. But when you come to the end of it, you feel like, okay, these two men are smart, they're articulate, they state their positions well. I have a choice, and here you go.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
let's save that until the end, and we'll delve deep into it. But for now, tell everyone who you are, and we'll get back to the Henyard talk.
Good evening out there, everyone in internet land. My name is Brian Trippett. I am known in social media circles as the Front Porch Conservative, the one and only Front Porch Conservative. I am on YouTube, that quaint little alternative social media platform that you might have heard of. I am also on Twitter, and I am on Rumble. So if you are not subscribed to my channel, please do so. I do live streams usually Monday through Thursday evenings, 7:30 Eastern, called Chatting on the Porch. I do a weekend stream called Front Porch Brunch. We're changing that up just a very little bit, and I'm going to do a real quick commercial. Tomorrow, Saturday, the 24th of August, I am interviewing legendary Chicago writer and newspaper columnist John Cass on my channel at 12 noon. And then Saturday evening, to kind of make up for the change of schedule, we're doing something called the Saturday Night Supper Club. So that'll be at 6 o'clock Eastern. So that's where you can find me. And I am glad to be here because I absolutely love this lady. What is my stage left, or my stage right, actually. But love being here. I love it when we get together because it's just a good time. And we both have that kind of sense of humor. It's like, oh my God, you really said that. So, so I warn all of you now, if you are of the faint of heart or even slightly sensitive, buckle up.
I gotta address this. Let me see if I can understand this correctly. You are covering a corrupt politician like it's bad, but supporting a convicted felon for president. I will just answer this by saying that Tiffany Henyard's corruption has been against the people in a very outward and disgusting way. Donald Trump has been investigated more than any other politician ever in the history of holding office and has not been found guilty of anything except some trumped up charges in the state of New York in which Alvin Bragg campaigned on trying to find a conviction for. And if you think I'm lying, go look into the research and you'll say it's totally trumped up charges. Pardon my pun there. And I respect everyone's opinion on this channel. But yes, I'm with the felon. If you want to call him a felon, I'm with the felon. And
Well,
he was never convicted of SA. He was accused of it in a civil trial. And if you know anything about the justice system, civil trials are totally different than criminal trials. You can be found not guilty in a criminal trial and still found liable in a civil trial because tort reform needs to happen.
Yeah, I let me add one thing without going into the weeds on either one of those cases, but I will say this with regard to the charges brought by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Even the former governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, said on Bill Maher's show Real Time that if the name were anyone other than Donald Trump, this case never would have been brought.
Right.
I mean, and that's from the former governor of the state of New York, who is a Democrat's Democrat and the scion of one of the most famous political families in the Empire State. So
exactly.
Just saying.
I refer you to my previous comment that you can be found not guilty criminally and be totally innocent criminally, but found liable civilly because tort reform needs to be a thing. And also the person that he supposedly did this to, her entire story was word for word a episode of, I believe it was Law and Order Special Victims Unit. Mm-hmm. And she even admitted to people behind the scenes that this never happened. And it's just as trumped up as any charge I could think of being trumped up. And Lynn, if you want to send me a list of his charges, I'll be happy to address them in an email, but I'm not going to take up any more time. I'm moving on to Miss Henyard. You can stay or you can leave, but I'm not going to be addressing any more of this until the end when we get to that subject.
Well, and let me just add one
with
more.
All due respect to you, and I appreciate you watching.
And let me just add one more comment toward Lynn's therapy singing channel, and I will try to do this in as mature and distinguished a manner as is possible for me to possibly muster. Okay, I'm done.
Well, yeah, she just said have a good day. So have a good day, ma'am or sir, whatever you are.
Arrivederci. Okay. Tiffany Henyard.
All right, Tiffany Henyard. We were just going over a brief history of Tiffany Henyard and basically all her corruption, right down to hiring using her local police department as stormtroopers to literally put out a hit on a former city councilman or town trustee that tried to remove a convicted Preto that she had put in as building inspector, got him removed, and then she lashed out at her and also was taking revenge on local businesses that would not contribute to the things that she wanted to contribute, including the Tiffany Henyard charity for cancer, I believe, for breast cancer, that was nothing but a money laundering scheme. She was retaliating to by revoking business licenses and refusing to reissue business licenses. And now we get to the point that they hired Lori Lightfoot,
Former
former
mayor,
mayor of
former mayor of
Chicago,
Chicago. Yeah.
as special investigator. And I had said earlier, it takes a crook to know a crook. That came up with a whole laundry list of charges. And she even beat a recall vote because of a technicality.
Hey, I'm throwing something in private chat from a little newspaper, I guess, called the Beverly Review, which I guess is an Illinois paper. If you want to throw it up on screen, you can, for the benefit of the viewers.
Sure.
Yeah, Mayor Lightfoot, and you can say what you want to about her reign as the potentate of the city of Chicago, but the town officials of Dalton invited her in, and what she discovered was just downright incredible. I mean, I was doing just a little background, to get ready for tonight, just to kind of catch myself up with what's been going on up there with Boss Henyard, which is my nickname for her, because to me, she's the boss hog of Illinois. Forget J.B. Pritzker, the governor. Pritzker's got nothing on this chick. I mean, just all
And I
kinds
am
of
going to
stuff.
share this. I have not seen it yet, so we'll go through it
Okay.
together here.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I mean, this lady is just unbelievable. I mean, Boss Hogg looks like a piker compared to
So
this
this is
lady.
a
It's
breakdown
ridiculous.
of what?
Yeah, this is a breakdown of
Yeah.
everything. This is
Boss
from their
Hogg.
August. Yeah.
I think. No, you and I have discussed before that there has long been a history of corruption in Chicago.
Oh yeah.
Basically the Irish mob controlled Chicago for a long time. But the difference between that kind of corruption and this kind of corruption is in the mafia corruption. Okay, yes, there were bad things going on all the time that shouldn't have been going on, but the city ran flawlessly. I know because I
Absolutely.
have family that lived in that era in Chicago. Dalton doesn't run. Dalton is bankrupt. Dalton almost got their police vehicles repossessed because she was spending the money on other things besides paying the notes. So yeah, not the same kind.
Yeah, I mean,
So yeah, this is just a long list.
Oh yeah, we're talking millions of dollars.
$6 million approved by the city trustees and then not sent to the vendors. That's why they were going to repossess all the police vehicles.
Yeah, I mean, just to back up from that, Lightfoot's probe. This is about 2 paragraphs up. Lightfoot's probe found the village has been without annual financial reports or audits since 2021. Her investigation discovered that by May of 24, Dalton's general fund balance was $3.65 million in the red after being $5.61 million in the black. So basically, the space of 2 years, she took them about $9 million in the hole.
Yep, they had a surplus and now they're in the rears. Yep. Kind of like what happened with California after Newsom took over.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's gotten so bad, and I'll drop this one. I'll drop this one in private chat as well. And if you want to throw
Okay.
this one up here, this is from Fox News, but it's
And
gotten to the point that
40 grand a
state,
day on Amazon.
yeah, yeah, paying for hairdresser. The city was paying for hairdressers, privates, paying the police extra money for to make her private security. I mean, I'm telling you, folks, this woman has got no. I mean, the worst, most corrupt mayors that you could think of in any big city Democrat run machine around this country across 100 years ain't got nothing on this lady. And the thing
Mm-hmm.
is that makes it even just more extraordinary is just how blatant she is about it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
one of the, and this may not be true anymore, but one of the old rules among mobsters was, look, you be discreet, don't be flashy. You can walk into a room, walk out, and no one would ever realize who you are or what you do. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, John Gotti blew that all up, but you get the general idea. This lady, no, 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 no. She is Miss Thang. She wants the bling, and she don't mind showing off the fact she's getting the city of Dalton to pay for it. It's just absurd what this woman's doing.
And then once Lightfoot got involved, then of course the state of Illinois got involved, and the FBI, Department of Justice, finally got involved after all this coverage.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, they have gone after both a town councilman that was very close to her, and her current police chief, which has just been fired, and then she's trying to rehire him because he allegedly falsified his bankruptcy papers, which is a federal crime, and they are threatening to go after him for that. They are prosecuting him for that in hopes that he will flip on her. But it
Yeah,
doesn't look like he's going to do it, and I will share that article as well. But he is her current police chief, and the feds are definitely trying to persuade him to flip on her. They want her. They don't want Mr. Louis A. Lacey. But he's basically been found allegedly falsifying income and hiding assets in a bankruptcy. The same thing for the other town trustee. They tried to get the same way, who
when I
did
went by,
not flip
well,
on her.
go back
But
up
they're
on that
hoping that
picture.
one of them will eventually flip and tell everything.
Go back up.
Boy,
Is
she
that
just looks so
microphone golden?
professional.
No, is that microphone golden? I'm serious. Look at that the head on that microphone.
It is.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
That's your
Folks.
taxpayers at work, Dalton.
Yeah, buddy.
That's your
Yeah,
tax
buddy.
money at work.
Well, and to go back to the police department, I dropped another article
But
in private. And it's an NBC Chicago link. There's been an update about that police story. The police department of Dalton has voted no confidence on this guy she's wanting to put in, this Lacey. They're like, nope, we don't want him. Forget it.
Oh, good. Good. Well, I know that the Illinois comptroller had also basically stopped all state funding to the cities as well in an effort to keep her from rehiring this dude.
Well, and I've kind of got to ask the question, and I mean, it's like I said a moment ago. In the old days of the mob, everybody kind of understood. Look, do what you got to do, but do it low key. I just wonder if I just wonder how much heat she'd be getting if she were being corrupt but keeping it on the down low, But this woman is just so over the top. Even Democrat, and let's be honest, Illinois is a Democrat state, top to bottom. I mean, there's a vestige of an alternative party out there, but that's it. It's a shadow of what it once was. I just wonder if what's being this heat she's brought down on herself would actually be coming down if she would just keep it her corruption low key instead of just flaunting it out there for God and everybody. And now the Democrats in Illinois are like, okay, we got to do something to shut this lady up. It's like, we got to stop this. This is nuts.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing that she did it, like you said, she did it on such a scale that the federal government and Illinois had to take action.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And
Otherwise, nothing would have happened.
yeah, and that also begs the question. I mean, now you've got the feds involved. The FBI is investigating her. The former mayor of Chicago has investigated her. The city council of Dalton, and that's what kind of kicked it off. I mean, she was
See,
so heavy handed
hmm
that the council members are like, we don't know what to do here. We got to reach out for help.
yeah, she fought them on. She basically would, stonewall every bit of their investigation attempts. She would basically have wage a political war against them, against individual members that were standing up to her, and they had their hands were tied. They couldn't do anything, and they had no money, and they had a corrupt police force. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Well, when I say corrupt police force, the higher echelons of the police force were definitely in her pocket. She had four officers, including Mr. Lindsay, that accumulated over 200 hours of overtime in 1 week. Now, excuse me, one person, you would have to work more than the hours in the week to be able to get that much overtime.
Did this guy go to the Nathan Wade School of Billing Records or something? Because I mean, that sounds about like some old Nathan did down there on behalf of Fonnie Willis, where he's like billing for like more hours in the week than actually exist. And everybody's looking at him going, come again?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely
Yeah,
crazy.
absolutely. And now they're trying to get him to flip on her, but evidently he's not, because she tried to rehire him. So
Yeah, and I
that's
mean
where we
this
are.
that's just the civic corruption. That doesn't get to the thuggish behavior about,
Yeah.
sending people around into neighborhoods, threatening city councilmen, threatening police officers, threatening people who are just basically asking questions about, wait a minute,
Mm-hmm.
where is this money going? How are you spending this? And she's just, I mean, I'm not kidding, man. It is thug like behavior on the part of this woman. She's
I
just
know.
terrible.
And her defense, I've seen so many videos of her in town council meetings, and her only defense is, how dare you? How dare you attack a black woman in power? That is her excuse. I am so sick of the identity stuff.
Yeah.
You are a person in power, and if you do wrong, you should be called out. I don't care what color you are, what sex you are, what religion you are, what your orientation, anything is. If you're a person in power and you're corrupt and you are basically raking your constituents across the coals, like she is, you need to be called out, and called out sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. And I mean, yeah, it's just, and it's not just confined to Tiffany Henyard. I mean, I alluded to Fonnie Willis a moment ago, who on my
Hmm.
channel, we affectionately refer to her as Drama Mama.
Yep.
And I will never forget, just as an aside, the first day where she was questioned on the stand herself.
Hmm.
And she just had such an imperious attitude about everything. It's like, I cannot believe that you're even questioning me. And Henyard's no different.
No.
Henyard is absolutely no different. And I'm going to be fascinated to see where all this goes, because it's like I said, it's reached the point that the Democrats in the state of Illinois and in the city of Chicago proper, and even the the Chicago Bureau of the FBI are like, we got to do something about this. This is out of hand.
Yeah.
This has got to stop.
Yeah.
It's
And one
so
of the
over.
most corrupt cities in the country, they finally say, "Oh, this too much. We got to do something."
It's like that line from Casablanca where the French cop walks into the I'm shocked. I'm shocked. There's gambling going on here. I cannot believe this. It's, you know, crazy,
Yep.
just crazy.
So that's kind of where she is. They are trying to, they're trying to charge her with as much as they possibly can. And I'm sure eventually she will be removed from office, though she's going to go kicking and screaming. But that's kind of where we are with her right now. But I think her roller coaster ride is picking up speed on that downward slope because they completely cut her purse strings. She has no control over funds anymore. They pretty much blocked all state and I'm sure federal funding to the two cities.
Yep.
So she's pretty much tied as to what she can do.
Yeah, I've got I dropped it in private chat. There's a Chicago Tribune. It's kind of like a specialized little South Side paper, and there's a headline that says Thornton Township trustees put lid on Supervisor Henyard's event spending. And I'll just read this, just a snippet of this real quick. Thornton Township trustees are putting limits, and let's see, the story came out 2 days ago. Are putting limits on her spending for township events, enacting rules for the use of credit cards. The action, let's see, the ordinance regulating spending for township sponsored events gives township department chiefs a spending cap of $1,000 per week or $10,000 per month, and requires the board to sign off on event budgets before money is committed or spent.
Yep.
Second ordinance is intended to regulate the use of credit cards by township staff. Details of that ordinance were not immediately available. Oh yeah, they're clamping down on this chick. Absolutely they are. And well, they should. Well, they should.
Oh, yeah. She's exactly.
And matter of fact, and
I
keep
think
talking.
Probably
keep talking.
part of it is no. I think part of it probably is that these were true public servants, the trustees of the town. These are true public servants. None of them are full-time politicians. She is her and a vital staff like their comptroller, the police chief, fire chief. Those people are full-time in this tiny little town. The town that they all have private careers. That's where they make their money. They are paid a pittance to be on the council. They are true public servants. And This is just like what happened in another Illinois town when Rita, God, what is her last name? The horse lady. I did a whole video on her where she basically sucked the town dry, embezzled a bunch of funds to run her show horse operation. Illinois, Ronald Reagan's hometown. Same reason, because she was one of, 3 full-time employees in the town. Everybody else was part-time, and there was no oversight at all.
Same Unbelievable. Thing. Yeah, I mean, and you kind of got to feel bad for. You kind of got to feel bad for small town city councils. I mean, it's like you said, these are individuals that, and if you don't know anything about the state of Illinois, Illinois is probably one of the biggest agricultural states in the country. I mean, everybody thinks Chicago and they think, big metropolitan city and yada, yada, yada. About 75 or 80% of Illinois is rural. Now, it has its major cities like Chicago, Peoria, Springfield, Rock City, the Rock Island area, and others. But by and large, that is a big agricultural state. You get past Champaign, if you're traveling from east to west, you get past Champaign-Urbana, and once you come off that interchange, you can look to your left, and there's nothing but wide open field. You look to your right, there's nothing but wide open field. And there's a road ahead of you. And most of these people, most of these people that serve on these city councils, they're farmers or they're small business owners. They're not necessarily experienced in matters of government or law or anything else. They're just trying to make sure that the city runs correctly. And you get someone, you get a vulture like Henyard who comes in, and it's just, she can pick them clean, and she has.
Yeah. And this from several years ago, Rita Crunwell. I did a video deep dive on this. $50 million from a small town, about just a little bit bigger than Dalton, because she was the full-time comptroller. Rita did everything. They all trusted Rita, and even the mayor was part-time in this town. So she was literally it, and it's just that there was no oversight.
Yeah. And I've been to Dixon, Illinois. Beautiful little town, by the way. Beautiful little town. Drove up there on a Saturday morning with a buddy of mine. He was doing some political work up there, and he needed a wingman to ride in the truck with him. And then it's just gorgeous little town, beautiful little place. And it's like you said, most of these people are just part-time. They just want to make sure the town runs okay. And, with little to no accountability, depending on the position. I mean, a Henyard or this lady, they could pick the bones clean and sadly, where Dalton, Illinois is concerned, that's exactly what Tiffany Henyard's done. And it'll probably
Exactly.
take them years before they straighten this out.
They Dixon was able to recover most of what was stolen from them by suing the CPA firm and the banks that allowed her to that did the tax returns and also allowed her to run this fraudulent account. They were able to recover most of it that way. But Dalton doesn't have that thing. This wasn't like the comptroller that was pulling an elaborate um, creative bookkeeping scam. This is just straight up in your face corruption with no checks and balances. So they don't have the luxury of recovering this through a lawsuit unless they sue her and she doesn't have it. So
No, she'll never admit if she did have it, she'd never admit to it. And if I were her, I would have made sure I've hidden it in places no one could get their hands on it. You
exactly.
know, so
Exactly.
yeah, you got to feel bad for cities like Dalton because, like I said, these are just good people that are trying to make sure that their city runs right, that the trash is picked up, the streets are kept clean, the crime is kept to a minimum, law and order flourishes, families are happy.
And somebody will put your fire out if your house catches on
Yeah,
fire.
and somebody put your
That's
fire out. Yeah, and sadly, they're just
Mhm.
and then the worst part about it is, the worst part is depending upon what has been done, and I wonder if this is going to be a problem going forward in a city like Dalton, is the stain of what she's done is going to be so bad. How how are you going to get good people to want to serve in government? Because keep in mind, you've gotten rid of her, but if she sunk her claws in deep enough, I mean, she might have minions, lieutenants in various parts of
Yeah.
the government, and then you got to deal with that crap. And it's like, how are
Case
you
in
going to get
point.
good people to serve? Yeah, go ahead.
Look, case in point, she actually passed a law that basically, right now she's earning around $250,000 a year, which is 10 times the median household income in her of her constituents. But she's basically signed a law into a law into order that caps the next mayor's salary if it's not her at I believe $40,000 a year. Who's going to want to try to clean up her mess? And that was what I think she was trying to establish herself as some sort of dictator, because who's going to want to take over and do that job for $40,000 a year?
Yeah, and I mean, you know, in my hometown,
It might have even
just
been lower than that, but it was
yeah,
something ridiculously low compared to
yeah. I
her.
mean, in my hometown, the mayor is paid a very healthy salary. You can make an argument, well, should he be or not? But the city council members are paid very, very little, and it's what's called a strong mayor form of government. And it's just if you get a good one, yeah, it's okay. If you got a city council that doesn't know how to fight back, it's a really bad situation. And it's like you said, I'm assuming that the city council is going to at some point propose something different after she's gone
I
to
hope
put.
so.
Yeah, well, you would think, but you got a valid point. Who wants to come in and try and clean up this mess at like $40,000 a year? And
Yeah.
I mean, because it does. I mean, a lot of people get the impression, okay, the mayor, he's there for the ribbon cutting ceremony or giving the key to the city to some famous person that happens to roll through or whatever. No, small town mayor has got a lot of different municipal responsibilities, departments that he is ultimately charged with administering. Yes, he has people under him, he or she
Hmm.
has people under them that do that work, but in the end, the buck stops on their desk. And, there is that, it's a legitimate tension, and that is, you don't want someone like a Tiffany Henyard basically, becoming Miss Thang with the
Hmm.
blang and, rubbing everybody's nose in the fact, hey, I'm taking your tax dollars and I'm basically feathering my nest. On the other hand, you don't want to underpay someone to the point you cannot get good talent. So it's always that tension's always going to be there.
Yep.
And it's just, you hope that the city council of whatever municipality you're talking about has the wisdom to find the balance between the two things. So,
Yeah. And and don't think that we're belittling a $40,000 a year salary
oh no,
in lots of areas of this country, including Dalton. That's a great salary. That's double their median
yeah,
household income. That's great. but who wants to be paid just that to deal with her mess? That's
Oh,
what I'm talking
exactly.
about. The juice isn't worth the squeeze, in my opinion, in that regard. So that's what I'm saying. I don't want anybody to think that we're being classist or elitist or anything, because I have no class at all in that regard. So there we go.
Well, the amount of my class depends on which glass I'm on, and the more glass is the less class. I'm just saying. So there you go. If you start me with one glass, I might have a lot of class. By the time you get to the fourth glass, I ain't got no class at all. Anything's liable to
Yep.
happen. So,
Yep. And I believe these town are paid somewhere between $5,000 and $8,000 a year for their service. So
that
it
probably
is
sounds-
it
yeah,
is a penance.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean they do the best they can, but they have families and other jobs and careers, small businesses, farms, whatever they're doing, and that's where their income. It's just like the original plan for our entire republic. We were supposed to be supposed to be gentlemen merchants, and when I say gentlemen, I mean gentle women too. Merchants and farmers and soldiers, and being a politician was supposed to be part time. But yeah,
Yeah, and but then somewhere probably around the turn of the 20th century, government was viewed as not something that is a civic thing that you volunteer to do for the good of all. It
mm,
turned into a way to start feathering your nest, and then you get politicians, be it a Henyard or on a federal level. I mean, in my state, the legendary Robert C. Byrd man
mhm.
was in office in the United States Senate for over 50 years,
Yeah. I
and
could I I could name hundreds of Republicans and Democrats
yeah,
and
Strom
independents
Thurmond, yeah,
that have been in power for 40, 50 years.
hmm
That's heinous. That shouldn't happen. Where's new ideas? Because none of these people have any new ideas.
yeah,
You think Nancy
absolutely.
Pelosi comes up with new ideas? You think even though Rand Paul, you think he really comes up with new ideas? Ted Cruz, you think he comes up with new ideas? No, they're
No,
just sitting on that seat, warming it, for the next time they hop on it, or somebody that within their ilk has heart. We need, there needs to be some serious term limits, and put in.
well, if not term limits, then age limits.
Yeah.
I'm really starting to wonder. I mean, the founding fathers had the good sense to make a minimum age requirement.
Hmm.
I'm starting to wonder if we shouldn't really consider age caps on
I
how
believe
old you
so.
can be to serve. I mean, I'm really starting to wonder.
And for those of you saying, well, the founding fathers should have done well. At the time of the founding fathers, the average lifespan was only into the 50s,
Mhm.
maybe early 60s if you were really healthy. So they
Yeah,
didn't really expect people to live that long.
exactly,
So now
exactly,
that we're living into our 90s in some cases, yeah, there needs to be some serious change made there.
absolutely. And and going back to Dalton, it's like I'm going to be very curious to watch with the passing of time. I mean, this woman's on her way out.
Oh, yeah.
Either the city council is going to impeach her and have her removed,
Hmm.
or the state or the feds are going to come in and they're going to be like, that you're done. You're done. We're taking you out of office in handcuffs and we're going to perp walk you out.
And then what's going to happen? They're going to commission the state of Illinois uh, state comptroller is going to send auditors
Hmm.
and to pretty much take over the town,
Yeah.
and they're going to slash and cut till they have a break even budget, and a lot of civic servants are going to lose their jobs. There's going to be a lot of services cut to recoup this money, and the people of Dalton are going to suffer.
Yeah. And that, it kind and I was thinking about this question today. And I know we're not going to get into the topic yet, but I kind of got to make this comment to set it up. I've been seeing all summer, all spring, even in the last winter, videos on TikTok, Twitter, other places of residents on the south side of Chicago, in and around the area of Dalton.
Hmm.
And they're just, I mean, they are literally the guy from the movie Network. They're as mad as hell and they're not taking it anymore. And anywhere you can find it on social media is that people are just fed up. And
Hmm.
not just confined to Dalton, it's the south side of Chicago, it's other places. I just wonder, what does it take? Now, Dalton, I think, is there.
Mm.
If you held an election tomorrow, they're going to vote for people of more fiscal responsibility, regardless of which party you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I think there are some Republicans that are as corrupt, they're crooked like a dog's hind leg, if I may borrow that old Southern expression,
Mm-hmm.
crooked like a dog's hind leg, and they ought to be locked up in the deepest part of the cell. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Never to see daylight again. So my hope is, out of all this, that the citizenry of Dalton is awakened,
Mm-hmm.
or legitimately woke, if I may use that term. They are
Or
now woke,
awake.
or
Awake.
awake. If they are legitimately awake, and this is going to cause people on the nights when city council's in session, as opposed to maybe seeing a handful of people in the seats, you're going to see the place packed out all the time, or people watching it online because they're like, okay, what are you doing with my money?
Mm-hmm.
What am I getting for the taxes that I'm paying in this municipality? And
Mm-hmm.
hopefully that's going to be a good thing. And I don't think that's necessarily going to be confined to Dalton. I
Yep.
mean, machine politics, and this is one thing I'm looking forward to my interview with John Cass tomorrow. Machine politics in Illinois is a very old institution. I mean, we're talking going back a good century and a half. But I just wonder, how fed up does a group of voters have to get before they finally are like, you know what? I've never voted this particular way in my life before, but I'm ready to do it because this has
Yeah.
got to stop.
Yeah.
And is it reaching that point in places like Dalton, in places like Chicago, St. Louis, other cities around the country? Are we reaching that point?
Yeah.
It's going to be
And that goes
fascinating to
for
watch.
any one party controlled state.
Yeah,
Are we
exactly.
are we reaching the point where we're going to flip to the other party, or an independent candidate, or a Green Party, or a Libertarian,
Absolutely.
before to get some control? You got to wonder.
And that's going to be something, to keep an eye on, particularly with Dalton, because if ever you needed a case example of what happens when well-intentioned people without a lot of experience in governance, what happens when they get a hold of somebody like a Tiffany Henyard, which that's what you probably know the details on this better than I do. How did this fox manage to get into the hen house?
Well, she was elected as a trustee, a councilwoman
Okay.
in 2013.
Okay.
Served, I think, with great esteem through 2017, and was elected again in 2017. So they knew her. She had done some really good things for the town, and then got elected mayor.
Okay.
And something of switching or just flipped, which makes me wonder if they dug back into her performance as a town council. Was there some seeds of corruption there, or did she just fall on her head and went crazy? You know, forgive
Yeah.
my forgive my assumption there, but it was just a sudden flip.
Yeah, because I mean, I had never, until you know, Boss Henyard,
Mhm.
got all the bad notoriety that she did. I would have never known about this lady.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, stories just start coming out, and they go national. And I'm reading this stuff, and I'm going, "You have got to be kidding me with
The
this woman."
local South Chicago network station was a CBS affiliate that was covering her, that broke the
Hmm.
story on the original shenanigans with the Las Vegas trips and things like that. They should be credited for first breaking the story, and then independent journalists like Sean over at Actual Justice Warrior, like Nate the lawyer, like
Yeah,
even the Young Turks, Anna Kasparian picked up this story. Lots of independent media picked up this story and ran with it, and that's why it started. Then it started trickling into the rest of the mainstream media because you couldn't ignore it. It was just there.
yeah. And I see a comment in chat. Michael Tristano says something about Zoom meeting, and
Well,
and and
yes,
it,
and there was a council meeting where she literally came in dressed as Wesley Snipes' character in New Jack City, and just put on like performance art, and that caught on as well.
oh
Yeah,
my God.
thank
I
you, Michael.
now wait a minute. I knew of a Michael Tristano once. He used to work in Illinois politics. I wonder if that's the same Tristano, but probably not. Um, Brown
Well, if it
saw a
is, I'm
red.
honored, sir.
Well, I was going to, yeah, the Tristano that I knew of used to work for former Governor George Ryan out there, but that was ages ago. So, I mean, if you're not that
Mhm.
Tristano, apologies, sir, but that was the first place my mind went. Oh, you're in Ohio. Okay. All right. Very good then. Very good. Brown saw a red flag. That's why to, okay. All right. Not quite sure what that one means,
But
but
yes,
okay.
that Zoom meeting was definitely a red flag.
Yeah.
So for
Yeah. I mean,
sure.
just absolute. I mean, you've seen the movie American Gangster, right?
Hmm.
Denzel Washington, Russell Crowe. Her with that Zoom meeting was about the equivalent of Frank Lucas with a chinchilla coat.
Yeah.
That's when everybody realized, wait a minute, and I mean, Henyard, and it's like you said, what happened to this woman? Because for 2 terms as a member of the city council, she was otherwise, doing good civic work. She's like, respected. And then all of a
She
sudden
grew
she
up in the
got
town.
power.
She graduated from the local
Yeah.
high school. She went to a local college in the area. So she's a hometown girl. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, boom.
Yeah. Just absolutely lost her mind.
Hmm.
And it's like, wow. Oh my God.
Yeah.
With that one. Whew.
But I'm sure there's arrests and convictions on the horizon. Arrests and charges and convictions on the horizon for it. It's just a matter of time. But it could be one of those things that just drag out for so long and then it leaves the public eye and then we never hear anything about it. But it's definitely something I'm going to keep an eye on.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, this is one of those, I hate to use this term, teachable moments
Hmm.
where, you know, if you need an example of why you need to keep an eye on local government, here's a real good example. Everybody, and understandably so right now, because it gets the most attention. Everybody's focused on national politics. Everybody's focused on state politics to a certain degree, depending on where you are. But man, it's the local city councils, it's the local county commissioners, it's
Hmm.
the local zoning boards. That's where the action's at.
Yeah.
That's the stuff to keep an eye on because that's the stuff in the end is going to affect your life the most. And I will freely admit, am I the best person at keeping up with what's going on with my local government? Not necessarily, but and I say this admonition to myself, I need to start doing more of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that
I'm,
in the end, that's the best thing we can do.
I'm very blessed to live in a very small town here in about west of Nashville in Tennessee. And we have a great local government, very small town. We have a gentleman, I'm going to give him a shout out because he's such an awesome person. Name is Bubba Parker. He is he's in charge of roads and public works here, but he's also in charge of like the town Facebook, social media, and he keeps everybody abreast of everything. And we're really blessed to have him because if I want to know what's going on, I just have to go to that page and look for Bubba Parker's post, and it'll tell me everything that's
Yeah.
going on.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And towns need that. I mean, one thing that I've been lamenting for really years, and this goes back way back to the 90s,
Hmm.
is we are losing our sense of community.
Hmm.
We're losing the sense of knowing who our neighbors are, knowing who lives on our streets, knowing, and not for the sake of like going Gladys Kravitz, if I may use that analogy.
Hmm.
And for those who are younger, like who the heck is Gladys Kravitz? If you've ever watched an episode of Bewitched, Sam and Darren had this neighbor lady across the street, and her name was Gladys Kravitz. And Gladys was always looking out her curtain, trying to see what was going on uh, over at Elizabeth and not Elizabeth, but Samantha and Darren's house. And she'd say, "Come here, look at this, watch what they're doing." That's
Hmm.
what I mean by Gladys Kravitz, that nosy
Right.
neighbor that is always. And what I mean, we want to know who our neighbors are, not
Yeah.
necessarily for the sake of being a Gladys Kravitz. We want to know who they are because it's like we need to form bonds with these
Yeah.
people.
And if
We need to.
anybody has never seen Bewitched, you could also liken it to guys that the dude in Home Improvement that would look over the
Wilson.
fence. Wilfred,
Wilson.
somebody like that that's kind of watching,
Kind of like, hey
Yeah.
neighbor. Yes.
Yeah.
You got to forgive me, folks. I mean, Tracy is enough of an aficionado of television movies that if I drop a reference, she's going to know it. But sometimes I realize, okay, Brian, not everyone is as old as you are, so you kind of need to explain to the youngsters,
Oh,
the
I was going to use
cultural.
Beverly Hillbillies as a
Oh,
Mrs. Drysdale.
look, they're out of the swimming pool. What swimming pool? You mean the cement pond? Oh yeah.
The for those of you, Brian and I are both Gen X, so we have definitely have the same background in after school television, which was mostly old TV shows from the 50s, 60s, and syndications. What we watched after school.
That's
So,
right, man. That's right. Just so yeah, we will, apologies in advance. Sometimes we'll drop a cultural reference, but we will always do our best as hosts to make sure that we keep everybody abreast of exactly what we're referring to. So,
or for those of you in the very, very youngest generation, Gossip Girl would be a good equivalent to the
yeah,
Gossip Girl.
yeah. That's Blake Lively territory, and
Yeah.
all I've got to say to that is Ryan Reynolds, you lucky bastard. That's all I'm saying.
Married to Scarlett Johansson and Blake Lively.
Son
and
of a
dated
bitch.
Alanis Morissette. How does one, wow.
There's something to be said for that boyish charm of his. I mean, it must be the thing that's getting the women. That's all I'm saying.
Well, with that being said, it's obvious that charges are coming, and I would hope a conviction on something is coming. So we'll continue to watch this. And now that we're about an hour into our live stream, we're gonna pivot, talk about what Brian's been up to all week. And if you want some fabulous political analysis, go over to his channel, The Front Porch Conservative. I will drop it in the chat here, and check him out. But he has covered both major party conventions over the past couple of months, and has been live streaming every day and keeping up with a heck of a schedule on top of balancing family and a day job. So he's a hardworking man, but I do want to give him the floor to talk about his thoughts on the DNC.
I've been watching American politics since I was 17 years old, and I'm now that old. But I have never seen a convention much like the Democrats. Everybody in the Democrat Party is trying to convince everybody that everybody at the Democrat convention is all hunky dory and there's love and everything else. What they're not letting you see is everything going on outside the convention hall, where you have thousands upon thousands of Palestinian protesters just absolutely screaming to high heaven, marching in front of the Israeli consulate in downtown Chicago, marching in front of the United Center, and then you got people busting through the hall on the Sunday night before the convention starts, running up on stage, grabbing a microphone, say "Free Palestine," and that's just the tip of the iceberg on the disunity. I mean, I have never seen a bigger collection of jackals in the same place at the same time. Consider the following. The outgoing president of the United States, Joseph R. Biden, this should have been his convention.
Yeah.
The woman who's being nominated, according to two different journalists, went to Barack Obama and said, okay, you can threaten Joe with the 25th Amendment. I've got your back on this. The cabinet will back me up.
Is this confirmed that this happened?
Seymour Hersh is reporting this, and Isabella, not Stone, but what's her last? It's Isabella Vincent of the New York Post. Independent of each other. Seymour's been around for years, and Isabella works for the Post, but they're independent of each other, are reporting that Barack Obama went to Biden and threatened him with the 25th Amendment. And Biden bid on it. But is in a last measure of screw you as I go out the door on Biden's behalf, he endorsed Kamala. Because what Obama wanted to happen was a mini compressed open primary. Ideally, according to reports, Obama wanted Mark Kelly of Arizona at the top of the ticket, which makes sense. I mean,
he's a middle of the road, moderate, old school Democrat.
Perceived as middle of the road, old school moderate Democrat from a swing state. former astronaut, military record, everything else, da 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 da. Nope. Joe's like, okay, you're going to shove me out the door? There you go. Take this. Basically, in doing that, Biden gummed up the works, which meant everybody in the Democrat Party had to flock to Kamala. So you've got that action going on. Then you've got Kamala there on the first night. Biden is asked to speak on the first night of the convention. Okay, fine. They pushed him. He didn't take the stage till 11:30 Eastern that night. This is an 81-year-old man. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Joe Biden is one of the scuzziest people to ever walk God's earth.
Now, hasn't it been confirmed by his own people that he's only good between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m.?
Yeah, they've said
daily?
that he really shouldn't be doing events after 8 o'clock in the evening.
Wow.
And they put him out there for 3.5 hours longer. He didn't get done till like 12:25 in the morning. And gave a speech that was angry. Yeah, you could tell he was pissed. The fact he's even giving the speech. As a matter of fact, he and Jill went on vacation to California right after that. And just finished that. They're flying back to Delaware tonight. So you got that. I mean, this is a collection of jackals. And then Kamala caps it off last night, giving a speech that, frankly, after the first 10 minutes, which was fine, the first 10 minutes of her speech were fine. She's introducing herself. She's telling people about her background, yada, yada, yada. The rest of that speech, I thought I was listening to Joe Biden in a dress, because Biden may as well deliver that speech. And basically it boiled down to Trump bad, and I'm going to do things. That's it. Don't ask her how she's going to do those things, because all she did for about a good 25, 30 minutes, about 25 minutes, nothing but platitudes, no details, no specifics, no explanations of the how, nothing. Mm-hmm. And if she wasn't doing that, it was, Trump bad.
Yeah.
And the gaslighting was just, I mean, I thought Biden was bad, was extraordinary for being able to do it. Oh no, that might be her best talent. Well, not according to Willie Brown, but that's a whole other argument.
And for those of you that get upset, and for anybody that gets upset about people calling on Kamala's how she got into politics, there is an old Los Angeles Times article that is a legitimate photo of a clipping that they ran back when journalists were journalists.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, an article about Willie Brown and the women and people that he had gotten started in politics. And one of them on the top was Kamala Harris, and they referred to her as his constant companion. Mm-hmm. And this is a married man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
That was Los Angeles Times.
Yeah, and quite the times Willie and Kamala had together, apparently. Mm-hmm. But I mean, the convention on the whole was a combination of boring, uninteresting, a collection of jackals. And here's the thing coming out of the convention that I don't think a lot of people are realizing. She's not going to get nearly as much help as people think she is. Because think about it for a second. There are at least 4 other people I know right now that want to be president that are not Joe Biden. Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, the current governor, Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois, and Governor Gavin Newsom of California. Now, 2 of those governors, if they don't lift a finger to help Kamala, it won't matter, because she'll probably win their states anyway. That's Illinois and California. Unless she gets some help in Michigan and Pennsylvania, she could lose both of them. And she can't afford to do that at all. I mean,
did Whitmer? I know that Shapiro spoke and gave kind of
Whitmer did as well. He gave, yeah. I mean, that's just it. I just don't see these folks who have future presidential ambitions. I mean, they might mouth the platitude that they're all in for helping Kamala and yada yada yada. Why would they work against their own political self-interest?
Yeah.
Why would they help this woman get elected if it means putting their ambitions on hold for 4 to 8 years?
Well, Well, that brings me to my next question. You're
Okay.
talking about the swing state issue.
Okay.
Whether she has support in traditional blue states doesn't really matter. But instead of taking a golden opportunity to choose somebody like Whitmer or Shapiro, she chose Waltz from Minnesota, a deep blue state,
Mm-hmm.
the only state that voted one of the only state that voted against Reagan in '84.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how deep blue it is.
Mm-hmm.
Why choose him? Expect, including the fact she's trying to present herself as a middle of the road moderate,
Mm-hmm.
but he's like super far left with
I'm gonna
ties to China and everything else. Why? Why would you do that?
I'm gonna say something that if you have listeners who are on the political left, they're gonna get mad at me for saying it. But I'm sorry, it's just the truth. She chose, or let me do it this way. She did not choose Josh Shapiro for one very simple reason. Josh Shapiro is the governor of Pennsylvania. The reason that she did not choose Josh Shapiro is because Josh Shapiro is Jewish. Let me say that again. The reason that she did not pick Josh Shapiro is because he is Jewish. And the fear was if you put him on the ticket, you are going to alienate the Palestinian bloc of the Democrat base such that you would put Minnesota and Michigan in jeopardy. And I would argue possibly even New Jersey or New York.
But they don't like her anyway.
Agreed.
Have you seen the protesters outside the
I know.
DNC were those very
I
people?
know. I know. I
And when I
know.
say, I'm not saying that in a derogatory way,
No, no,
but
no,
they
no,
are
no.
people
I
with
understand.
pro Palestinian leanings, and she's trying
Right.
to pander to those people.
Mhm.
Those are the very people protesting her. They've been
Th-
protesting her all along. So they don't like her anyway. So why not go with somebody that might capture you, the independents in the middle?
That's a great question. And frankly, I made the argument not just on my channel, but to friends of mine, talking offline. I said the smartest thing she should have done was take Josh Shapiro for any number of different reasons. Number one, Pennsylvania is a swing state. Number two, he's got a political machine there as governor. Number three, if you have any shot at beating Donald Trump, you have to take Pennsylvania. It's not negotiable. A Democrat has to win Pennsylvania. There I jokingly refer to Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin as the three wise men of the Midwest. Okay? For her to win, she has to have all three of the wise men in order to get this thing done. If she would have taken Shapiro, it would have sent the signal to everybody that she was going to fight for Pennsylvania. Well, she's still going to try and fight for it, but you have a situation where, yeah, the governor's going to give lip service to helping you, and he might tell his people, okay, get out there and do something, but he ain't going to crack the whip. Number one, he's not on the ticket, and number two, he wants to be president. Why should he help her, work against his own political interest in the long run?
And why should he run the risk of pissing off the moderates and conservatives in Pennsylvania
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah,
for
because
backing?
he'll have a governor's election coming up in 2 years. So I
Yeah.
mean, you know, and Pennsylvania is a strange state in this respect. If you took out Pittsburgh and Philly,
Hard
that,
red.
that state would be ruby red.
Mm.
It really would. There's a pocket outside of Philly, and I mean the key to success in winning Pennsylvania. And I've had friends who live up there tell me this for years, and they've worked in politics. You basically just have to hold your losses down in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh just enough, crank up your vote everywhere else, and you got a shot at winning. It might take you late into the night before you do it, but you can make it happen. So I just the next 70 something days are going to be weird beyond all
Is
imagination.
she? So you really think that, or it's been confirmed, at least from the sources that you've seen, that her whole appointment was Joe Biden's last FU to the people that just
Oh,
staged a coup?
absolutely. Absolutely.
That this is
It,
not a unified choice from the party, that they would have
no.
chosen a more moderate, popular Democrat,
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
and probably replaced her as VP too, I would
Isabella
imagine.
Vincent, I recommend go out to the New York Post, check out Isabella Vincent's columns in the past 30 days. Very specifically, she had sources close to the Biden White House who were saying, yeah, this is Joe's way of saying F you to Barack Obama. He knew he was being pushed out, and he said, okay, you're going to run me out the door. Here's what I've got to say about it. I'm endorsing Kamala because Barack Obama, according to sources, has said he doesn't think she can win.
Yeah.
Oh, he might have given a real barn burner of a speech at the convention, but he don't think she can win.
Does do you think that then this is a throwaway ticket as far in the minds of most Democrat insiders, not Democratic leaning voters, but
If I had to guess, my answer to that would say, if you'd asked me that question 3 weeks ago, I'd have said absolutely. I think, however, there is a strategy because Democrats are not going to give up under any circumstances. They're just going to try to figure out how they've got to win. And I think what's going to happen is if they can get it close enough in the swing states, and that if they put forth an effort to, shall we say, fortify the election, if I may use that term, that if Kamala somehow magically wins on election night, it looks plausible. That's the thing that just frustrates me about this whole. It's the campaign of joy.
yeah, not
She,
policy. I haven't heard about one. The only two policies that I've heard, or even ones that the mainstream media is coming down on her for, and that's no taxing of tips, which that was a Republican policy. That was Donald Trump's policy long before it was hers,
Mhm.
and the cap and the price caps. And I saw a snippet this morning where a CNBC anchor was giving Elizabeth Warren the business, telling her
Oh,
what a bad idea
absolutely.
that was.
Yeah. Well, and even the no tax on tips proposal that she's got, there's an article that ran, I'm going to say somewhere in the past week in the Washington Post, where she's talking about, capping that at $75,000, and also saying, hey, well, there are only certain kinds of things that you can exempt from your taxes. Well, then what's the point? Then what's the point of putting out the proposal? Well, I know why she's doing it, because she's trying to, especially in Nevada,
Mm-hmm.
in a state that workers heavily rely on their tips.
Yeah.
She's
You got
trying to,
Reno and Las Vegas there.
yeah, you got
Okay.
Reno and Vegas where she's trying to make inroads there, but it's a pig and a poke. She's going to
Right.
say she wants to do one thing and then not do it.
Yeah.
You know,
And I know that one thing that came out of the convention that I think is just a terrible thing that's being done, and I wish people would stop it, because we're not. I don't like when people make fun of people. But Gus
the walls. Yeah,
Gus Walls. I
go,
think he's adorable. I think he's
yeah,
completely adorbs, and I
yeah,
just want to pinch his cheeks. And he's proud of his daddy, and he has every right to be proud of his daddy. And so, if you're making fun of him, just stop right now. Just stop. You're a
yeah.
terrible person for doing it.
I mean, look, even if he didn't have the challenges that he has, there's a very old rule in American politics. If the kids are below a certain age,
Mhm.
you leave them out of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like when people were attacking Barron Trump back in 2016 and 2020.
Yep.
Oh, I saw conservatives and MAGAs saying how terrible that was, that they're attacking Barron, and yet here
Yep.
we have people turning around doing it to Gus. Don't
Yeah.
do it. Leave kids and wives out of it. Can we please?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. You mean the rule was you leave the kids out of it if they are below a certain age and they are not active participants in the campaign.
Yeah, you
Okay.
want to go out after Eric and Donald Jr. Go after them.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
grown men. They can handle it. But don't
Absolutely.
leave. But kids that are under the age of 21, leave them
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah. If they're in college or younger and they are not active participants in the campaign, you leave them out of it.
Yeah, you want to go
But
after Kamala's two step kids. leave them alone. They're college
Yeah,
age. Don't
yeah.
go after the don't go after. Well, you can go after Hunter all you want, but because yeah,
Oh
he's a
yeah, he
he's a loyal cow, um, but yeah, that's just
yeah, just
tasteless.
yeah. I mean, like I said, even if he didn't have the issues that he is dealing with, leave him out of it.
And I'm sure Tim Waltz is a nice person. If you were to sit down and talk with him, I'm sure he's a football coach. Of course, he's a nice person.
I
But I don't like his policies. I think he has a twisted view of what communism and socialism are, and that's not good for this country.
I I'm not totally sold on him being the good everyman.
Really.
I think that and I'll tell you why. This guy's got a temper. He really does. It's just, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think if you push him the right way, he'll blow his stack.
Maybe we'll see when he debates JD Vance. What
No,
Vance is a bulldog.
that's
Vance
going
is a bulldog.
yeah,
Vance does not lose his temper, but he could probably push the right buttons for Waltz.
oh yeah, yeah, and the thing is, I am really looking forward to that debate. I mean, don't get me wrong. Come September the 10th, I will be live streaming uh, Trump versus Harris, but I am absolutely going to live stream the Veep debate because that's going to be a fascinating exchange. It really will.
Have you noticed how many bulldogs now Trump has for him with RFK Jr.? He has sealed the deal with the triumphant of bulldogs. He's got Tulsi Gabbard, he's got Vivek, he's got Vance, and now he's got RFK. And none of these people pull any punches when they speak, and they're going to be on the campaign trail for him and with him, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think I'm not saying Trump's totally learned his lesson because, you know, look,
Trump is Trump. Trump's going to be
Trump is,
Trump.
yeah, yeah. But if he surrounds himself with the kind of talent that it looks like he's getting ready to surround himself with, if he wins, this second term has the potential to do some extraordinary things.
Well,
Absolutely extraordinary.
speaking of RFK, the first 15, 20 minutes of that speech today was an absolute barn burner.
Mm,
It
yeah,
was.
yeah,
He
I,
went after the Democrats and how they pretty much stole a primary from the people,
yeah,
stole the opportunity to primary their own candidate, and how he was pretty much sued into basically defending his presence on a ballot as an independent
hmm
in most swing states and other states too.
yeah,
And how the legacy media, I'm not even going to call them mainstream anymore because they're dying, their legacy media, has pretty much, he's been barred from doing any interviews
yeah,
at all. It's only independent media and Fox News that will let him have a platform.
yeah. It's I was thinking about it today. Kamala Harris spoke for 37 minutes. And I think I said this at the top of the live stream. Robert Kennedy spoke for 45 minutes, and Robert Kennedy said more in 15 minutes than Kamala Harris did in a whole 37.
Yeah.
He demonstrated to everybody. I don't care if you're on the left, on the right, down the middle, whatever you are, that frankly, had he, I agree with you, had it been a choice of Trump and RFK Jr. for the Democrats,
I wouldn't have
this
been
would be
mad
a
either way.
this would have been a whole different race.
I would have probably been in the ballot box flipping a coin at that
And,
point
and,
because,
and yeah, and the other part about it is, and I think what I'm about to say next is lost on the current leadership of the National Democrat Party. But I guess this comment is for people of a certain generation and of a more open mindset inside the Democrat Party. Stop and consider the following, folks. When the scion of one of the most famous political families in the history of not just America, but the Democrat Party lectures his own party about freedom of speech, democracy, This is, keep in mind, the Kennedys go back at least 100 years in American politics to Joe Sr.,
Hmm.
working as an underling in, FDR's administration.
Hmm.
Okay. When the scion of that famous political family is lecturing the party that he has been a part of since 1960.
And this is not even like an offshoot Kennedy cousin that no one's ever
No,
heard of. This
no,
is
this
Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
this is the son of the man who lost his life in June of '68 at the California primary when Sirhan put a bullet into his dad.
Hmm.
This is the man who is the nephew of John Fitzgerald Kennedy,
One
killed
of the
November
best
1950.
presidents to ever serve this
Yeah,
country.
yeah, and he's. I mean, I love what RFK Jr. said. My uncle and my father believed in vigorous debate. They believed in conversation. They believed in the idea of being to defend intellectually your beliefs. They wanted to see open democracy. They wanted to see free speech. He said the party that exists now is something that neither my father nor my uncle would even recognize. And he endorsed Trump, and he said, "Look, there are things we profoundly disagree upon." He
But the
said, "We will
fundamentals are
continue."
there. Yeah.
Yeah, he said, "We will continue to disagree upon them." He said, "But the things that got me into this race, stopping the war in Ukraine, fighting for better health for our children, and freedom of speech, we agree on enough that I don't want to be the spoiler that keeps this man from winning." And by the way, a lesson to you, members of the Democrat Party, particularly the national leadership: when someone like an RFK Jr. calls, pick up the phone.
Yeah.
I mean, I was talking with my buddy Smiling Jack today. Smiling Jack and I have known each other for 20 years. I said, if ever you need a lesson in the importance of being willing to talk to anyone, this is it. Because, I mean, boil it all down. Okay. And I know what I'm about to say is dreadfully simplistic, but it's true. Donald Trump was willing to talk to RFK. He took a phone call from RFK Jr. That started their relationship. This was in June of this year.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
Harris wouldn't even entertain it, or
no,
Biden wouldn't entertain it. Harris wouldn't entertain it. If Harris had entertained it, we could have very well seen the same thing today, except him endorsing Harris, which would have been a disaster, and I probably would have cried.
the Washington Post about 2 weeks ago was reporting that RFK Jr. was trying to make overtures to the Harris campaign. Harris's people would have nothing to do with him. They wouldn't even talk to him. Trump, on the other hand, is like, come down to Mar-a-Lago, let's talk.
Yeah.
And Kennedy freely admits that's what happened. There was a mutual acquaintance between the two of them and said, look, the president wants you to call him. Kennedy's like, all right. So they took a phone call. Then Donald Trump says, look, let's talk some more. Come on down to Mar-a-Lago. He goes down to Mar-a-Lago. They talk some more in very serious conversations. And at the end of it, they're like, Kennedy's like, I agree with you more than I can agree with the Democrat Party. And I give RFK Jr. a ton of credit in this respect. There were reports, and in his speech, he basically confirmed it, that his wife was desperately trying to get him, don't endorse Trump. Don't do it. And he said, I can lay my head down on the pillow at night and say, yeah, I'm doing what's right, and I think this is the right way to go.
He
To the
legitimately, he said he prayed about it. He's an
Yeah,
ardent Catholic. He prayed about it,
yeah,
and he said, this is what God told me to do.
yeah. To the
And so,
consternation, my wife might disagree with me, and he said, I know that. He said, I know friends are going to disagree with me, but this is the way I feel I need to go. And you know what? And I'm not just saying this because the result is helping out the guy I'm supporting the election. That speech was classy.
mhm.
It was eloquent. I've heard people withdraw from political races before. I've heard the speeches, and I'm not just saying this again. I'm not just saying this because it happens to benefit the guy I'm supporting in the election. That speech should go down, and I think history and time will judge it that way. That speech is going to go down as one of the best and probably most important political speeches in history.
Yeah,
I mean that in all sincerity.
absolutely. And I'm sure he was offered a cabinet position because he pretty much said that if if it goes, our way, then I will have a opportunity to enact some of the things that I believe in, hopefully.
I have
and that
not I have not a problem at
I
all.
put him in the cabinet. Put him over the FDA or the USDA, please.
Absolutely. Put him in
Uh,
charge of HHS.
yeah, put him over or a Department of the Interior, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, put Vivek in over, Department of Education or anything,
Yeah.
like Tulsi Gabbard would be great as as Secretary of Defense. I really believe that, or even
Either,
Secretary of State.
or Homeland Security.
Yeah.
Put her there. Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
to me, I say you put Kennedy over top of DHHS, which is Department of Health and Human Services, which
Mhm.
controls the FDA, Centers for Disease Control, and everything, and just give him carte blanche, clean house, just clean
Yeah.
house.
And people kept saying he's an no, he's not. He didn't say
No.
anything about vaccines. He said that the chemicals are that we're using too much pharmaceuticals for things that don't need pharmaceuticals, and we're eating too much processed food. That's what
Hmm.
he said.
Yep.
And that we're staffing these agencies with executives or former executives from processed food companies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
they're
he's like,
designing the food plate and the food pyramid and making us all sick.
oh, absolutely. And like I say, if Trump does win, and if he puts in the kind of cabinet that is ready to help him, this could be a fascinating 4 years. It really could.
If he has enough people in Congress, if the Republicans keep the House and they can somehow flip the Senate, or keep the Senate as close as it is with your buddy over there in West Virginia going independent, the Democrat, they're not even talking about that. The Democrats aren't talking about
Oh
how they just
no,
lost
that
a seat.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Jim Justice is going to be the next senator in West Virginia come November.
He's a is he a Republican?
He's Republican. I mean, and that is a flip.
Yeah,
As it stands right
it's
now,
already flipped. I mean, they lost a seat when he went
yeah,
independent.
yeah. I mean, it basically all they need are 2 seats. West Virginia puts them in a tie. One more after that. It could be Ohio. It could be Montana. It could be Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin. I mean, the Democrats have to defend a lot of real estate in this election in terms of the Senate seats. A
Yeah.
lot of them.
But he
And if
can get a strong, Congress behind him. I'm not even talking a super majority, just a simple majority. That's
yeah,
all he needs is
yeah.
to do some real damage control.
And with Mitch McConnell now out of the way, announcing that he will not be the leader of the Republicans of the Senate come 2025, you've got a chance, depending on who they pick as the leader, you got a chance to get some stuff done.
Please put Rand Paul in there.
I Rand Paul would be good. Barrasso out of Wyoming wouldn't be bad. Steve Daines wouldn't be bad.
Yeah.
Rick Scott wouldn't be that bad out of Florida. That'd
Yeah.
not be too bad.
Yeah.
It definitely. I mean, at this point, it's gotten so
And
bad.
we can always hope that Vivek, if he doesn't end up in the cabinet, that he'll be the choice to take JD Vance's place in Ohio.
That's been talked about quite a bit. And if I were Trump,
I would push for that. He can do more. He
absolutely,
can be more help in the Senate than in the cabinet. You can still get
absolutely,
advice from him.
yeah, exactly. Well, you need a point man. You need a point man in the Senate to run your stuff anyway. Vivek could be
Mm,
the point man.
yeah.
You know. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting 70+ days. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, everyone, I've enjoyed it. It's been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. As always, I always enjoy having Brian on. Please go over to his channel. It's there in the chat. I'll also post it in the description down below. And Brian, any parting words?
Well, folks, if you're here tonight, please subscribe to Tracy's channel. We are, I have a joke on my channel. I have a going little concern of a social media channel. I want to make it a going big concern. This lady does a lot of really good work and on varied subjects. So please, if you're not subscribed to her channel, give her a sub, help her out. You know, it's one thing to be good looking like we both are. We wouldn't mind being rich and good looking. So we might get there if y'all subscribe to our channels. So help this lady out. She is a doll, and I'm not just saying that because she for some reason drags me out of the gutter and brings me on this channel at the risk of her reputation. No,
Well, Matt
Tracy is.
Carlo will be very upset, but I'll admit it. You're my online boyfriend.
Woo,
He likes
baby.
to say he is, but yeah.
Now, somebody needs to clip that and get that back to Harlow, because you know what's going to happen. I'm going to get a phone call. Go, you son of a bitch! How dare you hate the girl? I'm like, I saw her first. I saw her first, jackass. Get over it. Um, yeah, somebody clip that and send it to Harlow, because that's just too damn good. But no, I love Tracy to death, and so yes, please support her work. Like I say, for my part, and I'm sure Tracy would much be the same way, I wouldn't mind doing this full time.
Yeah.
And if we can help her get there, please subscribe to her channel and let's do that.
Yeah, please go check out Brian if you want really good political commentary without cruelty. That's just base straight line facts. With I think a wonderful down home spin, then that's definitely
Thank you,
Brian.
Karen.
And I think he's unique. You're unique in the political space because you put your biases right out front. I'm a conservative. I'm coming at this from a conservative perspective. You don't sit there and pretend that you're middle of the road. I mean, that you're riding the fence. This is what I believe, and that's to be appreciated
Well, thank
in
you.
this era of activists masquerading as journalists.
No, exactly. And the thing with my channel is, I jokingly tell people all the time, I'll always tell you what I think.
Mm,
God help you if you ain't ready to hear it, but I'll always tell you what I think.
right.
And, I will do it with kindness. I'll do it with respect. You can disagree with me all you want to. I'll disagree with you all I want to. And at the end of the day, that's cool. I think we need more of that as much as
Absolutely.
possible.
All right, everyone. Have a wonderful evening or day wherever you may be located in the world. I hope you have a fantastic weekend, and we'll be back soon.
Ta
Until
ta.
then, keto and crime.